everyday witches emerge from the shadows of secrecy. Broom closets are flinging open and witches are taking flight. Whether you are hiding in your cozy closet or flying with pride, stay for a spell as Witchcasting with Theodora Pendragon and her guests share magical moments, stir the cauldron, and debunk misinformation and misconceptions about paganism, witches, and our wonderful world of magic.
I'm Theodora Pendragon, your host, and today I have a wonderful special guest, a witch from Wales, Lyn Thurman. Welcome, Lyn.
Oh, thank you for having me, Theodora. It's a pleasure to be here.
So usually I find my guests, but you found me. Can you tell us how you found me?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those kind of strange synchronicity things. A recommended group came up on my Facebook. I don't even know why it found me because I've never searched for anything like that before. It was like Find a Guest. I think that's what it's called. And it's for people who are looking for guests on podcasts or hosts who, I don't know, it goes both ways. So I was looking down and I saw that you had replied to somebody else. And I just got really curious and I thought, that sounds like something I would be interested to be part of. So then I reached out and, kept my fingers crossed. And here we are.
I think it's wonderful that you found me that way.
Yeah, I wasn't really looking for anyone in particular. In fact, I didn't even know I wanted to be in part of that group. So it was just one of those strange coincidences.
What about my response to the original poster that caught your attention? Was it something that I said?
Do you know, I can't actually remember what that was now. I think it was the name of the podcast because it's Witchcasting. And so that immediately caught my attention. And I just thought, that's something that appeals to me. So I will be bold and reach out and see what happens.
Yeah, that's fun because people will see witch casting and it will either draw them in or scare them away.
I get that.
You are the creator of tarot cards and oracle cards.
I am.
Tell us a little bit about that. Or let's say, tell us a lot about that.
Oh, it's quite a journey, I created my first oracle cards, years ago. It must be, how old was my daughter? About 13 years ago, but I didn't publish them. I created my own Lenormand cards, oracle cards, and I used all kinds of images that were special to me because I'm a Londoner. I had the Tower of London in there. I had bits and pieces that were special. My daughter when she was a toddler for the child. And I just really enjoyed creating that. Then I moved down to south of England near the sea, which was like a dream come true from this landlocked Londoner to go and live by the sea. And the sea was my inspiration for my Sea Whispers Oracle deck, which is all sea-based and, just really touches my essence, I suppose. So then it was a bit of a lull. I didn't create anything else. I did order some copies from that and self-published. Then I had a bit of a creative lull, but since moving to Wales just before lockdown, I have created a tarot deck, an oracle deck. I'm in the middle of creating another tarot deck as well. So my creativity has exploded.
How many do you have total now?
I have one tarot deck out, which is actually currently on Kickstarter for a second edition, and 2 oracle decks that people can get from me, and another tarot in the pipeline. And then I've got personal ones that I've created just for me, like the Madame Lenormand cards that I talked about. Some rune cards I've made for my husband. I made him some oracle cards. So I've been creating about 13 years now. So it's quite a journey.
With your tarot cards, do you do readings for people?
I do. Yeah, they come and go, and I do little readings every day on TikTok. That was another kind of out of my comfort zone experience to get on TikTok. 'Cause my teenage daughter was telling me, "No, Mum, it's only for young people." But it's been a really fun experience. I've really enjoyed doing daily readings on TikTok.
You do daily readings on TikTok?
Yeah.
How
Yeah, I
fun!
started that. It is fun. I was a bit overwhelmed to begin with because it seemed everything was moving really fast on TikTok. And I thought, oh, yeah, maybe she's right. I'm too old for this. But I actually do it every day and I really enjoy it.
What's your TikTok handle?
It's just Lyn Thurman.
And of course, I'll put all those links in the episode notes so that people can find you.
Thank you.
Tell us about the Kickstarter.
Yeah, the Kickstarter, that has been amazing because without crowdfunding through Kickstarter, I would never have been able to afford to publish my decks. So I created the Wisdom of the Depths, which is my tarot deck, during the first lockdown, and just felt that it would go well on Kickstarter, and it did. It was funded within 48 hours. I was overwhelmed by the response, and I managed to afford a limited print run. I could afford like 300 decks. I was so chuffed with that because I thought if I could get 50, I'm going to be over the moon. So I well exceeded that. I was just, yeah, really amazed how well it went over. And I've just kind of revamped it. It's probably going to be my last edition. It's quite a lot of work, the Kickstarter. You don't realize how much work goes into these things until you start running it yourself. So the new edition has an extra card called the Depths, which is between the Fall and the World. So, well, it's really the world and the Fall. So it's the unexplained, unlimited potential that has yet to manifest. It's got a better box this time. So I've got a rigid box instead of a tuck box. And just a little update on the cards to make it easier to read. Because I use my cards daily and I think I didn't think about how my poor old eyes would strain on the way that I'd managed to put the text. So I've made that clearer for people who suffer with poor eyesight like me. So there's been a few changes.
And you're the artist also for your cards?
Yes.
You're very talented.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, was a frustrated artist for a very long time. When I was a little girl, I just loved to create, and I was either drawing or painting or sewing. And then I went to high school, and well, over here in the UK, you have to choose your exams very early. So when you get to 14, you have to decide what you're going to do practically for the rest of your life. And I was going to do art and design and graphic design, but the headmistress had different ideas, and I went on a different course completely and ended up doing IT. So I never really got to realise my inner artist until I was midlife.
Over in the UK, you choose your career path, or does somebody else?
Well, you're meant to choose your career path, and you do it when you're 14. So you're deciding at that age what you're going to study practically for the rest of your life. If you want to go to university, you've got to think in advance for that. But I think when I took we call them options, my options, it was a change going on between vocational and kind of like more academic. And I suspect that there was some extra funding going for more vocational qualifications. So I found myself doing IT and tourism and business studies instead of art and design.
The education system is very different over in Europe. My mother's from Germany, so I'm very familiar with the German system. And in the fourth grade, the students test, and their test results determine which path they'll take, whether it's like trade school or college. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot on kids.
Yeah, when I was in the fourth grade, I just wanted to be a veterinarian. But I think every kid wants to be a veterinarian.
At some point, I think that's true.
But the IT is probably your strong suit because that helped you with all your oracle cards and your tarot cards.
Oh, absolutely. At the time, I thought it was a huge detour to where I wanted to go. But in hindsight, I have a lot of skills. Like my art is digital art. I do a lot of digital collage, and I'm all self-taught because I'm very comfortable with software and computers and technology. My medium for creating is technology, and I absolutely love that. And having that ability in this day and age to do these kind of things, it's mind blowing, and I'm really grateful for that.
You said that you created a deck for your husband.
Mm.
Does he believe in tarot cards and oracle cards and all the woo-woo stuff that we do?
Absolutely, that's how we met for a tarot reading. So
Tell us.
this was many years ago now. We've been married almost 20 years. It was a strange time for both of us before we met. I was going through a divorce, so was he. But he was a reader for the American Tarot Association. And one day I just got really curious because I'd just got my first deck of tarot cards and I was doing readings with friends, but I didn't really know how it would work over the internet. So I thought, I'm going to test these free readings on the American Tarot Association website. And he was my reader. So he did me a reading, and then I was quite shy, but I thought I'd like to be able to do a reading for him. So I asked him if I could read for him, and through there, a friendship blossomed. And eventually, he left California, come to London, and been here 20 odd years. So, all for a tarot reading.
That is such a neat story.
Yeah,
It's always amazing to hear how people meet.
Yes, yeah.
I would call that divine intervention, would you?
Absolutely. And this was 20 years ago, so the internet was very young, and but we're back on dial-up in those days, so it's quite a new thing. And internet relationships and tarot relationships, I don't, I'd never heard of it until I experienced it.
Being a witch in Wales, what is that like?
It is, to be honest with you, I haven't really got to experience what it's fully like yet. We moved here 10 hours before the first lockdown and didn't know anybody. So we're just now kind of getting into the community. We went to our first pagan moot, which was the first for our little town actually last month. So we're beginning to meet some people. But overall, there's not any kind of stigma, or I've never encountered any negativity from that anywhere I've lived. So I think it's really, really lucky from that point of view. But for my own personal spiritual journey, being a witch in Wales is totally magical. It's how I got here. And I couldn't think of a better place to be. There's a story about how we got here if you want to hear that.
Absolutely.
It was my husband's birthday. We were living on the south coast of England then. And it was kind of like a random place where we're going to go away for a few days. I wanted to go to Norfolk, which is on the east coast of England. He wanted to come up to Wales. So we came and stayed in a little caravan for a few days, not too far from where we live now. And we went to this lake called Bala Lake, and it's where the story of Ceridwen and Taliesin is set, where she's meant to have had her cauldron in the middle of the lake and made her potion, and then the whole story of Gwion Bach, and then turns into Taliesin. That's where it was all set. So I was sitting there just by myself on the edge of the lake, and it was so peaceful. And this calmness came over me, and I just said to my husband, I really want more of this into my life. Let's move to North Wales. And he said, well, we'll just ask our daughter And Tabby was, okay, let's do it. And we did. We set a goal within 6 months we would move, and we did it within 6 months and like 10 days, but it was 10 hours before lockdown. So it was just another divine intervention moment. So when we moved here, we had the magic of lockdown, not knowing anyone, and everything's so quiet and peaceful. We're 10 minutes walk from the beach. So we spent our days walking along the beach, just really connecting with the spirit of the place. So from that point of view, this has been a totally magical journey. I can't really tell you what the community aspect is like because it has been a very personal journey so far, but I really am looking forward to seeing what else Wales has to offer.
Have you done any readings since you've been there?
Oh yeah, I read from my hairdresser. She arranged a little Halloween evening, so Paul, my husband, came with me because we both read together. So we did some readings there. That was a lot of fun. So I suppose that was our first toes into the community. Yeah. And I do readings online as well, over the internet. So I've been reading for people, but not so many in person while I'm here yet. Hopefully that will change.
Perhaps as people get to know you there by word of mouth.
Yeah. Takes time.
Did you say that your cards, Sea Whispers, is that the Oracle deck or is that a tarot deck?
Yeah, that's an oracle deck, and that's all sea themed and sea based. Yeah, I'm a Pisces, so the water is so important with everything I do. It's where I find my inspiration, and it's where inspiration finds me.
Did you create that deck since you moved to Wales?
No, that was before. That was when I moved from London down to the south coast of England. We were there about 12 years. No, I didn't create that. I created the Wisdom of the Depths, which is my tarot deck, and the Animal Spirits of the Sacred Isles, which is an animal deck based just on animals that you can find here in the British Isles.
They all sound fascinating.
Thank you. They've all been very different projects and very enjoyable.
If I'm a good guesser, I would guess that you have many, many tarot cards, even ones that you did not design.
I have hundreds of them. I've lost count. That was one of the blessings about living in London is there are some great esoteric shops. And back in the day, me and Paul would go up on the train, come back with tarot decks galore. Yes, I've stopped myself buying any more new ones because we just don't have enough house for tarot anymore. So we have to be really careful. We've got boxes and boxes of tarot decks and oracle decks and rune stones and any kind of divination device you can think of. It's a bit of an obsession, to be honest.
Somehow I can't help myself when I go to a store and I see a beautiful deck. But what's interesting, and I don't know what to make of this, my dog loves tarot cards and she eats them.
Really?
Yeah.
Any ones in particular?
She doesn't eat books. She doesn't eat shoes. She eats tarot cards and toilet paper.
Oh dear.
So I have to hide the tarot cards from her.
That's an expensive hobby on her part.
How did your spiritual journey begin?
As long as I can remember, I've always been really, really interested in the things that no one else seems to be interested in. I can always remember being very young and I wanted to go looking for ghosts, and being an avid reader at a very young age, I would go to the library and get books out on ancient Egypt and paranormal, anything like that just really interested me. But then I kind of got teenage years and then got married, and that kind of got shelved, that side of me. So it wasn't until I got divorced when I was in my late 20s that side just sprang forward again and I could reconnect with that path. But my journey with witchcraft came about by an accident. as so many things seem to happen in my life, I joined a book club. And again, it was back before the internet made things super easy. So I would get a little catalogue sent to me each month, and I had to decide if I wanted the book of the month or I could pick a few more. And one month I forgot to select. So they sent me Witchcasting by Phyllis Curott. And I picked it up. I thought, that's a load of rubbish. I wish I'd never got that. But, I've paid for it now. So I stuck it aside. And one day I didn't have anything to read. So I just picked it up out of curiosity, started reading it. And it was like, oh my God, that's me in that book. I can relate so well with what she's saying. So that was my first introduction into witchcraft. And from there, it escalated rapidly. And it was like a coming home moment.
It's like you couldn't get enough.
Exactly. Yeah. Like this world had opened up that I didn't know existed before. And it just felt like the right way to go. And it was this was 20 odd years ago. So it was a long time before witchcraft became very trendy and everyone wanted to be a witch. This was back in the day where it was still a kind of a bizarre thing to want to associate yourself with.
Is that your experience, that a lot of people now want to be witches and they're attracted to witchcraft?
I think so. I see it a lot. I was just watching it unfold actually last month when I went to the first pagan moot since lockdown. It was very interesting watching people looking at witchcraft for answers and getting very excited about the kind of modern way that witchcraft has developed over the years. So I think there is an awful lot of interest, at least in the UK. Yeah, I think it's much more acceptable here.
That's my impression. I'm very envious of you where you live.
Yeah, you don't quite have so many freedoms in the States, do you?
It depends on where you live. I live in Texas, so in some areas people frown upon it.
Mm.
But we have metaphysical shops popping up everywhere. We have Pagan Pride Day, and we have witch shops and witch markets. So they're becoming more common.
That's good. That's good.
It makes my heart happy.
Yes, I bet it does. That's good. Let's hope that it carries on that path.
Oh, I think it will. It's becoming more acceptable.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are looking for answers where they can't find it in traditional belief systems and traditional practices. That witchcraft gives people freedom of expression, freedom away from rigid beliefs, and you can find your own path, which is equally appealing and sometimes equally scary as well.
It can be very fun and freeing.
Yes, it really can. And if you follow the path for long enough, you begin to really appreciate everybody else's path as well, and how if you can forge your own path, you can be accepting of everybody else. And it would be beautiful if everyone could come to that point and just embrace whatever path you're on, because everyone is going in the same direction. You just have a different expression to get there.
That's a very nice way of putting it. I have found within the witch community, people are very accepting of others, more so than in other arenas that I've been in.
Yeah, that's been my experience as well. When I was back in Hampshire, I would go to a lot of pagan events, and you would find people from all walks of lives, all different gender identities, and everyone is welcome. And because there doesn't seem to be, so much, oh no, you can't be that way if you believe this, and the silliness that goes on, and everyone is just welcome for who you are, which is what everyone really wants at the end of the day.
Yeah, we can be whoever we are without being told that we're a bad person.
Exactly. And if someone tells you you're a bad person, it's just their opinion, it's their judgment. Doesn't make it fact.
It doesn't. Do you have children?
I do. I have two very grown up sons who live in London, and I have a teenage daughter who lives with us in Wales.
And
So.
what do they think about our magical world of witchcraft?
Well, my sons, I don't think they really pay much attention to it. It's just another weirdness that mum does. So they just, pretend it doesn't exist, I suppose, but not in a nasty way. It's just that they're not interested. And that's absolutely fine. My daughter is a bit more open. She'd come to me from time to time, Mum, could you do a reading for me? And things like that. But I'm really proud of her because she's very open-minded, and I love that she embraces and is accepting of other people's beliefs no matter what. So I think that's job done on my part there, or on her part.
That's neat.
Yeah, she doesn't mind. Our house is full of strange witchcraft books and tarot decks and paintings of gods and goddesses, and it's just everyday life really for her. She doesn't know any difference.
That's nice that she's been exposed to that her whole life.
Yeah, she has. But equally, she found a lot of fascination and going into old churches. We're really lucky over here because some of the old churches are like 1,000 years old. So if you happen to stumble upon one, there is a great energy usually attached to churches, especially as most of them, really old ones, were built on pagan sites. So you have this energy that bubbles up that really, it doesn't matter what building is on it, it's the land itself is sacred and is coming forward. But she went through a stage where she absolutely loved going into the churches. I mean, she still does actually, but she would, when she was younger, make a big point of standing there for a very long time. I'm not quite sure what she was doing, but she seemed happy enough.
That sounds lovely. Going back to when you met your husband, he was in California in the United States, and then he moved to the UK.
Yes.
Has he talked to you about what it was like in the United States versus living in the UK, reading tarot?
Yeah, he had different experiences than here. Here is quite, as you can guess, it's quite open. No, the most people think is that you're a bit eccentric and leave you alone, kind of thing. He was actually a Baptist minister at one time in California and left the church to kind of follow a different path. So his exposure to reading tarot was mainly online at that point because there wasn't any outlets where he lived in the desert to read for people. Completely different environment than what it is over here. So the internet readings was a great outreach for him.
That was a big detour from the Baptist ministry to being a tarot reader.
It's a bit, isn't it? It's like a complete turnaround.
That's a cute story.
Yeah. Just goes to show, your path is a strange and winding, unique experience, regardless of who you are. And it's funny that there always seems to be kind of like you start off on one route and then you end up somewhere completely different. Like me I did go into IT. I spent 15 years in IT and then left that to become self-employed, and now I get to do all this kind of magical stuff as my job. It's amazing, but it's definitely has been a detour of the path. I would never have seen that coming. And equally, when I was a kid, I never would have thought I would have ended up in government and IT. I mean, for once, it didn't even exist back then. Government did, but IT didn't.
And I bet just a few years ago, you would have never guessed that you would have a daily show on TikTok.
No, absolutely not. I just thought TikTok was for young, trendy people, but it's quite an enjoyable thing. I do quite enjoy it. And they're little videos as well, and I can cope with the 3 minutes or 2 minutes and just ramble on, and then on to the next one for the next day. So yeah, you just don't see these things coming. So it's kind of having to embrace the journey and the changes that come rather than resisting them. Then you find out that your life is going in the exact direction it's meant to be going when you get out of the way and just let it flow.
That totally resonates with me because I'm always telling myself, take the path of least resistance. And it usually works out better that way.
Yeah, isn't that the truth?
Yeah, instead of thinking about what you really want, I want this to happen. Maybe it's not supposed to happen. Take the path of least resistance.
Yes, exactly. And have you noticed that every time you think you want something and it's got to be a certain way, that even if you get it, it never matches up exactly to what you think? It's like impossible to manifest exactly what you think you want.
I believe that's when our spirit guides are trying to guide us.
Yes. Yeah.
No, Theodora, you don't want to go down that path. We're going to put up a roadblock. You're not going down there. And then later I realize, oh, now I understand why. I was supposed to go down here.
Yeah. Have you ever pushed through those roadblocks, not listening to your intuition, and ended up in hot water?
Oh, yes. Yes. Like bad boyfriends.
Yes. Or bad husbands.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's quite, when you become aware of how your intuition works, those signals can be so strong, but then our ego mind can be even stronger, telling us to ignore it. And that's when things usually go really wrong.
And we're still learning. It's always, well, is this my ego that wants this? Or is this the spiritual path I'm supposed to go on?
Yes, yeah. That ego voice can be so loud. That's why it's really important to take a breath and tap into the heart space.
And that's the reason I do not read my own tarot cards, because I want to see what I want to see and I'm looking for the outcome I want. So I've learned not to read my own cards.
Oh, that's quite an issue, isn't it? Because some people say, no, never read your own tarot cards, and other people say, read your own tarot cards. So you're definitely in the I don't read for myself camp.
You are? You don't read for yourself?
Oh, I do. But it can be quite challenging. But then I also get my husband to read for me if I don't want to. So that is one of the bonuses of being married to a tarot reader, is that if you want to step back, you can get someone else to do it.
I might do a simple 3-card spread, but I try to stay away from any other spreads for myself.
There's probably some wisdom in that. I oftentimes, if I do readings for myself, they're kind of more open-ended rather than what's going to happen in 6 months. It's more of things to ponder on and think about. That way, they're just portals to wisdom coming through rather than trying to manifest something exactly how I want it to manifest.
If any of the listeners want to purchase your oracle cards or your tarot cards, how would they find them? Where would they purchase them from? Do you have a website?
Yeah, it's best to go to my website. It's lynthurman.com, and there's links there because I've got a little Etsy shop where I sell my cards. So there's links from my website to my Etsy shop.
Oh, you have an Etsy shop.
I do, yeah.
What's the name of it?
So it's Soulscape Studio, UK. Soulscape, all one word, then Studio, UK.
And your website is lynthurman.com.
That's right, yep, lynthurman.com.
And like always, I'll put those links in the episode notes.
Oh, thank you.
Well, thank you, Witch of Wales, Lyn Thurman. Thank you for coming on the show, and thank you for reaching out to me and finding me. It's been lovely.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It really has. It's been really lovely to connect with you, Theodora. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
And blessed be.
Blessed be.
Thank you for joining us for Witchcasting with Theodora Pendragon. Have a burning question or have a topic you'd love Theodora and her guests to discuss on the show? Contact her through Instagram at Theodora Pendragon. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And help us spread the word by leaving us a rating and review and sharing it with your friends. See you next time, and may your magic always shine.